All right, if you just want to start with your name and tell us where we are and what's going on right now.
Hi, my name is Asad Siddiqui. We are currently in Ann Arbor on State Street on one of the biggest game days, Ohio State versus University of Michigan. And what we're doing right now is causing a little bit of disruption, economic and also moral, I guess, for the people who have been trying to avoid what is happening right now, the genocide that is happening right now in Gaza and in Palestine, funded by our tax dollars. So we're trying to make a bit of a difference.
So can you talk about why the football game? Why did you choose that?
Well, I don't think it's much of a choice as much as this is mainly people from the Ann Arbor community. So the majority of the people here right now are not students. These are people in the Ann Arbor community who have watched their city refuse to divest and refuse to acknowledge the concerns of their citizens. The people here do not feel represented. And this is a fact because multiple times resolutions have come up, multiple times there have been city council meetings, and the discussion on what's happening has been tabled over and over. So they are choosing a high impact moment, a football game, the largest game that usually happens here, to try and make a stand, to try and get people, knock some sense into people that, hey, we are your constituents, you should be listening to us, you work for us, not the other way around.
How do you feel about the recent pause that's supposed to be happening in Israel, Palestine? What's going on with that?
I want to start with a couple things. First off, the apartheid illegal state of Israel has repeatedly proven itself to be untrustworthy in both its media and the facts that it claims to abide by, or the treaties it claims to abide by. Multiple times. This is historic. You can look this up. On top of that, the 4 or 5 day pause is absolutely not enough because they have then reiterated that they're going to double down and go even harder, right? So this is completely unacceptable. We don't want a 4 or 5 day pause so that we can feel good about shopping on Black Friday and the holidays. We want an end to the illegal occupation. All occupations, all genocides everywhere that are especially funded by our tax dollars, for which we are directly responsible for, we want an end. The people here, everybody across America who is currently protesting wants an end because they do not feel represented by our government in the interests of ourselves.
Can I get your thoughts on the recent hostage exchange that happened recently? Some people were released.
I just want to say one thing about that. In the hostage exchange, when the prisoners that were mostly taken without any kind of justice away from the people of Palestine, when they were released, there was effectively celebrations. There was people crying and praying together and welcoming each other back into their families, children who hadn't been seen until they grew into adulthood by their families, versus the hostages that were taken back by the illegal occupying force of Israel. They were immediately sent to interrogation, they were immediately silenced, and then they were immediately, what is it called, shin bet or something? So I want you guys to think about the difference in that response, those two responses, and then come to your own conclusions, really.
And what is the hope with actions like this? Are you trying to impact what the U.S. government is doing? Are you trying to kind of fight a war of public opinion? What do you see as the end game for all this?
It's multiple fronts. So we can't tackle this one way. We know our representatives don't really care about us, right? But some of them care about votes. Some of them care about their donors. Mostly, this country cares about economic impact. So yes, we care about public opinion, but ultimately public opinion doesn't matter, right? What matters is the actions, the consequences of that opinion. So we are trying to make a genuine impact, an economic impact, and make it clear to the people who supposedly represent us that we are not going down quietly. This is going to continue, and we are going to continue escalating things until they decide to finally represent us and our wishes. And the wishes of the majority of the people. If this is a representative democracy, they are not fulfilling their side of the covenant.
And I saw a sign that said U of M funds genocide. Could you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
So just to preface this, the people here, again, mainly not students. They are mainly not interested in what the University of Michigan is doing per se, but an important piece of information. Both Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan are heavily invested in companies. Easy one is HP, right? Heavily invested in companies that fund actively the genocide that is happening in Gaza and in Palestine and various other genocides that are happening across the globe. Sudan, in Congo, the Uyghur genocide, all of these places. A lot of your electronics are made by forced illegal Uyghur labor. So I want you guys to all think about that. The goal of this, that we're saying that UM funds this, is because the University of Michigan has repeatedly refused to listen to their students, listen to the constituents of the people who they are serving, and listen to the people who are paying tax dollars. Instead, they listen to their donors. If you look at the board of directors and the donors on that board, you will see a clear connection to Zionism in this university. It is frankly disgusting, considering I went there, my tax dollars went there, I know a lot of people whose tax dollars, this is a public university, not even a private university. So they have to listen to their students. They have avoided listening to both their students and their constituents over and over on purpose. So, yeah.
All right, kind of winding up here. Are there any like misconceptions you feel like Americans have about Palestine that you'd like to clear up?
The first one is that Palestine is not an Islamic state, and Palestine was never an Islamic state. The only time in history where where all Jews, Christians, Muslims, and non-religious people lived in peace and harmony in Jerusalem, a holy place, is when there was Muslim rule over that place. And on top of that, one thing I want to make very clear, the people of Palestine are Christian. Still, the people of Palestine are Jewish. Still, some of the loudest voices against the Israeli occupation are Jewish voices. Some of the loudest voices against the Israeli occupation are actually queer and bi-POC voices. And there's a reason for this. It's because you don't suddenly stop being Jewish. You don't suddenly stop being queer. You don't suddenly stop being whoever it is you are when you are taken over by somebody else, when you are a part of some area, when lines are drawn on a map by people who aren't you. So I want you guys to think about that. When our bombs land from our tax dollars, you think that you are maybe doing something moral because, say, you think Islam is a bad thing, you are still killing more bi-POC people and non-hetero people and Jewish people and Christians. They have killed Christians. The oldest church in, I don't know where, but one of the oldest churches in the world was bombed. Yeah, third oldest church was bombed by Israel. So I want you guys to think about that and then make your own decision, I guess.